Thank you for joining our Wednesday evening Bible study. Please stay tuned for some important announcements immediately following the service.
Fanny Crosby, she wrote over 8,000 hymns, and she was blind. Another one of her songs was Blessed Assurance. We're going to go down home. Come on, clap your hands. Come on, come on. Everybody move with the choir. Come on, move with the choir. Come on. Pass me not. Pass me not. Oh, gentle Savior. Oh, hear my while on others. Let me at the throne of mercy. Let me at the throne of mercy. Find us sweet relief. Oh, leave there in me. Oh, those hands. Oh, I'm calling Savior. Oh, Savior. Oh, hear my oh, I wanna look down. Verse 3. Oh, trusting only in thy name. Would I seek thy face? Would I seek thy face? Oh, heal my wounded, broken spirit. Save me by thy grace. Save me by thy grace. Come on, sing that chorus. Oh, I'm calling Savior. Oh, Savior. Oh, hear my to that last verse. Thou the spring, oh, thou the spring of all my calm. More than life, more than life to me. Whom have I? Oh, whom have I on earth beside? Oh, in heaven. But everybody put those hands together. I'm calling. Amen and amen. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. As Dr. Bradley said, Fanny Crosby, who wrote that song, and thousands of others, was blind. She was once asked, how do you handle being a Christian? How do you handle encouraging people with songs and you are blind? She said, the joy of my life is that when I get to heaven, the first thing I shall see is the face of my beautiful Savior. Not so bad to go through earth and don't see anything if Jesus will be the first thing you will see. While on others thou art calling, do not pass me by. Thank you, ushers. You may be seated. Thank you, music ministry. Let me say to you what a joy it is to stand and to preach to you each Sunday. Thank you. I thank God every Sunday for a place to preach and for people to preach to. Now, for the task at hand, a few scattered remarks, and I'll bid you good morning. The other day, I was out playing golf, and I think that God intended for preachers to play golf. If he didn't, he wouldn't have made the ground so holy. Y'all watch Dr. Bradley have that on Facebook next week. I ain't playing. But when I play, I listen to music, and music was playing. It was Patti LaBelle was playing. James Cleveland just went off. Patti LaBelle was playing, and as Patti was playing, I started thinking about my mama. I'm out here, and those of you who've lost loved ones, you know, all it takes is a smell. All it takes is a walk. You see somebody who walks like somebody you know, or they'll say something. You'll say, my sister used to say that same thing. And an overwhelming sadness, a cloud. I was wearing a gray shirt, but I was under a grayer cloud. And I started to fuss at me. Your mama been dead long enough. You ought to be over this. Now here you are, a super Christian, counseling, comforting, preaching all over the country, telling people how to get over stuff. You ought to be over this. And while I was there, I thought about something that the husband of Susan Smith said. You remember 1994, I think it was, Susan Smith, a lady in South Carolina, who took her 2 children and drove them into the water. Said that somebody had stolen them. Because she wanted to be in another relationship and her children were holding up, she drove them in the water. And they asked her husband, how are you going to get over this? He said these words, I won't get over it, but I will get through it. And I want to suggest to you that there are some things in life that you never get over. But with God's help, you can get through. And for some of us, the frustration with moving on is we're fussing at us because we're not over it. But can I tell you that there are some scars that are as deep as love and as long as life? And we don't get over them, but God gives us the grace to get through them. Such is the case with our lesson for this morning, our sermon for this morning, a story that passage that John read about the book of Job, the 19th chapter. In the 19th chapter of the book of Job, there is this testimony, and we have read about the life of Job. All of us know about Job and how Job was a rich man. When you read the book of Job, it is actually the oldest writings in the Bible. Job, this creature from the land of Uz, was blessed by God. Job was a good man, did right in the sight of God. When the King James uses the term perfect, it doesn't mean he didn't make mistakes. It literally means mature. Job had an experience. Job was such a good brother that in the evening he'd say, Lord, in case my children did something bad, I'm going to offer a sacrifice for them. And then one day, because God had a conversation with the devil that Job didn't get to hear about. He said, you've been looking for somebody. He said, have you tried my servant Job? And devil said, Job ain't no fool. If anybody treated me like you treated Job, I'd serve him. And he said, no, that's not why Job serves me. Take his stuff. Job lost his stuff. Devil said, yeah, but he'll cuss you if you touch his body. He said, touch his body, but you can't get his life. The Bible tells us that Job lost his children. Job lost his finance. And in the midst of that, Miss Job comes to him and says, man, why are you holding on to God? And some people will say that she lacks faith. But those of you who've seen people you love suffer, you pray that God would be merciful. I remember in the final days of my grandmother's battle with Alzheimer's, she'd forgotten how to eat, forgotten who we were. And I said, Lord, she's been so faithful to you. Be merciful and give her a rest. Could have been Miss Job was just saying, Job, curse God and die. I don't like seeing you in this situation. Job's friends accuse him and say, now, Job, if you were this holy, God wouldn't be letting you do all of this. And Job stands, and in verse 23 of chapter 19, Job gives us some clues on how to get through what you can't get over. He says, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that he's going to stand on the latter day upon the earth. And he says, and though after my skin worms, literally he used this term, tear my body, tear the skin off my body, destroy my body, yet in my flesh shall I see God. He said, whom I shall see for myself, and mine eyes shall behold him, and not another, though my reins be consumed within me. Now, I'm going to drive AV crazy. I'm going to drive Brandy crazy, because I gave them some notes, but I'm going to change those. I'm just going to talk a little different, and I'll mention the notes I gave to them so they won't think I'm crazy, but I just want to talk to you today about how to get through what you can't get over. First thing I want to suggest to you is that you've got to have an appreciation for your present situation. I call it an appreciation for your present predicament, that you don't do God a favor by trying to pretend that things aren't bad. And we got some super Christians who will tell you that if things are bad, that it's a lack of faith. I'll never forget when I was a boy, I was playing at school and I hit my knee, and the teacher bandaged it up, and when I came home, my big mama put some methylate on it. Some of y'all will know about that. You will live a little better, you had back teen, amen. And my big mama said this to me. She said, what you keep covered will never get any better. And there are those of us who go through life pretending. Okay, let me show you in the text. When you read verses 23, Job does not pretend that his life is not bad. Job said, I've lost my family and friends. As a matter of fact, Job doesn't hear the conversation that God has with Satan. When God says to Satan, go try Job, Job isn't privy. And I need to suggest to you that there are unheard conversations going on about you, that God is not saying to you that you messed up. He's saying to you that you're somebody I can trust. And Job said, I wish. You read the book of Job, he uses some really great words in Old English in the King James. He uses the word daysman. He said, I wish I could find a daysman. That's a referee, an umpire to make me talk to God so God could explain to me where I made the mistake. I wish that I had an advocate in heaven, somebody to appeal my case because I'm doing the best that I can. Job says, I wish I had a stylus, a metal pen. I'd write it in a book. I'd write it on a rock so that those who would see how bad. Nobody enjoys losing their family. Nobody enjoys losing their children. Nobody enjoys losing all of their finance. I know it's rough. That's what he says. I'm not pretending. Here is the reality of Job. Job says, I know it's rough, but I ain't lost everything. Truth of the matter is, y'all, when you read the life of Job, we only pick up the bad part. Do you know how long Job has been doing good? As a matter of fact, the front of Job's book is good, the middle is rough, but the end gets better than the front. So that Job shows us, when we appreciate present predicaments, that life is about balance. It can't stay up all the time, that all sunshine makes me a desert and not a garden, that God has mountains and valleys in my life. And the truth of the matter is, the reason that bad parts stand out is because most of my life has been pretty good. A. Lewis Patterson tells the story of his father being his father was worked on the railroad, and his family took a trip from Granger, Texas, where he grew up outside of Austin, to St. Louis. Trip about a little over 900 miles, and he said his older sister had been on that trip before, and his sister started to tell him about this dark tunnel. Pat said at that time, children didn't need to get to decide if they went on a vacation, so he knew he had to go through this tunnel. He said, so they left, and they went through this tunnel. This tunnel was 1/4 of a mile long. On a 900-mile trip, he had to go through a dark tunnel that was only 1/4 of a mile, but he was about to give up the whole trip for 1/4 of a mile. Truth of the matter is, even when you appreciate your present predicament, you got to be willing to say that most of your life has been tunnel free. I've been to more birthday parties than I have funerals. I've had more good days than bad days. I've spent more time up than I have down. I've gotten to celebrate more times than I've spent weeping. And if life is about balance, I've got to learn how to tell the Lord that when I look around and I think things over, my good days. Preach, yeah, I am. I'll weigh my bad days. I won't complain. But then, y'all, not only must you appreciate where you are, but you got to affirm what you know. Right? Listen, I told the people that not only must there be an appreciation for your past predicaments, but for your present predicament, but you got to have an affirmation of past principles. Watch what Job says. Job says, I know that my Redeemer liveth. Now watch this word, Redeemer, this idea of somebody who buys back the family. We tend to think that it means about salvation, but Job isn't talking about salvation. He's talking about vindication. Because Job's biggest problem now is that his friends have said, if you had been as holy as you pretending, God wouldn't let this happen. And some of us got friends, some of us are friends with some of Job's friends' cousins who always know why other people suffer. Now, she can do all that shouting in church if she want to, but if she was that holy, her cheering wouldn't be that bad. He can do all that hard praying he want to in church, but his wife wouldn't have left him if he, come on, talk to me, wave at me, if I'm in this house. And we love to talk about Job lost everything. Job did lose flesh. He did lose finances. He did lose family. He even lost fame, but he kept his faith. And if you keep your faith, you can get the rest of that back. I'm going to preach by myself. I ain't playing. And what Job says is, I know that my vindicator, my redeemer, the one who's going to buy back my reputation, the one who's going to get, I know that he lives. And when what is around you does not look like what you think it ought to, you've got to be able to look back with the eyes of faith and say, it doesn't look right now, but there's some things I know. It's rough, but I know. God and I, we've been through too much together. I know he lives. I know he cares for me. I know he'll work it out for my good. I know. I've not been so good that I don't deserve to suffer. And while I'm going through, I've not been so good that God would isolate me from hurt. But while I'm going through, I still know he loves me. That's what Job says. I know that he lives, and that even though he uses this term, skin worm, they believe Job had a disease called elephantiasis, which caused literally flesh to die, to fall off your body. Even with all of this stuff going on, he says, I'm going to get to see him for myself. I know. A.W. Tozer says, what you know about God and what you say about God in tough times is the most important thing in your life. You got to be careful when you go through what you say about God. Because God will bring you out and embarrass you by what you said. The writer of Psalm 76 says, for me, he starts off and says, truly the Lord is good to Israel, but as for me, my feet had well not slipped. For I considered the prosperity of the wicked. I saw how bad people were balling and looked like good people were struggling, and I got ready to tell God off. Job has that encounter with God. Job said, God, let me ask you some questions. And let me tell you something about God. When I was a boy, they say you can't question God. Yes, you can. But let me brace you. God might question you back. And God might embarrass you with the answers he gives you. Job said, what have I done? God said, hold on, wait a minute. Where were you? You so smart. Where were you when I scooped out oceans and pushed up mountains? Where were you? Tell me, Job, where do I keep the snow in the summer so that it doesn't melt? You want to talk? Where do I hide rain until I need it? Where were you when I wrapped the fish in scales and taught him how to hold his breath and swim underwater? Where were you last night when I took light and matter, flung it against the canvas of darkness and called it the midnight sky? You gonna ask me a question? Let me ask you one. Answer mine and I'll answer yours. I was preaching for Pastor Kevin Van Hook in Waco, Texas. At the time I was living in Kraken. I was doing a revival. We were out playing golf again, and thunder started to roll. And whenever you're on the course and you hear thunder, you got to leave. And so he took out, and I took out following him in my car. And we were playing at the lakes. I wasn't familiar with the course. And as we were riding, G.A. Loud, who was a pastor, was riding with me. Kevin cuts through some woods, and G.A. says, man, you don't even know where you're going. I say, I don't, but I tell you what I do know. I know who I'm following. I know what he thinks about me. I know what he feels about me. And I know the revival ain't over till tomorrow, so my work for him isn't done. He ain't gonna let nothing happen to me. Truth about life is sometimes we go through dark places where we have no idea where God is taking us. But you've got to know who you're following. You've got to know how you feel about him. And you got to know he ain't gonna let nothing happen to you until your work for him is done. Y'all, let me tell you, you got to learn how to affirm past principles. You got to learn how to accept your present predicament. But y'all, what God does in difficult times is God adjusts our will. I call that the acclimation of our personal preferences. That what God does in tough times is he changes our wills to be like him. Here it is. This is what makes being a Christian. This, in the words of Marius Watson, this is a faith for grown folk. This is grown folk faith right here. What makes being a Christian so difficult is that we are involved with a sovereign God who takes away from us what he doesn't want us to have because he wants it to work out for our good. C.S. Lewis, one of my favorite authors, was once asked by a lady, does God want me to be happy? And Lewis says, God isn't concerned about your happiness. God is concerned about your holiness. And sometimes to make you holy, God has to make you unhappy. And what God does is God takes from us things we depend upon so we can trust totally upon him. God will let us get in situations where every other gift we have falls short. One of my mentors just passed. I was reading a post his daughter made. He was a leader in the faith for over 50 years. Such a strong man. And he died suddenly. I said to my friend, God took him standing up. She wrote a post the other day and said, for 50 years, I have depended upon God and my Father. She said, but God has placed me now where I can only depend upon him. A hard reality in life is if you are here and you don't have it, you don't need it to be here. That God may have used it, it may be a relationship to get you here. But if you are here now, that means God can sustain you without it. For over 50 years, I had a mother and a father. For 55 years, I had parents. But I'm here now. And one of the realities God has taught me is I have never taken from you what I did not first give to you. And God has said, I've never taken an essential, I've only taken enhancements. I let you wake up this morning, that was essential, you still got it. What God does is we get in a fight with God and God molds our will. He puts us in situations where we say, all I've got is you. Where we declare, even like Job, though you slay me, yet will I trust you. During Katrina, following Katrina, I read the story of a man named Hardy Jackson, 54-year-old Hardy Jackson. Hardy Jackson was a man, he and his wife were swept away by the floods that followed Katrina. As he's holding on to a tree and to his wife, the water is about to make him let go of the tree, and his wife says to him, "Hardy, let me go." He said, "I can't, baby. I promised to love you, for better, for worse. I got to hold on." A deafening thunder, water is rolling. She said, "But Hardy, if you hold on to me, we will both die." He says, "I can't let you go." She says, "The children will need you. Our grandchildren will need you. Hardy, live on through, I will live on through them. Let me go." I watched his interview, and even then with tears in his eyes as the water swept her away. He talked about how he had gotten his children and his grandchildren, and he was raising them. And every chance he get, he told them about his wife. Grown folk in life, God takes us through some things where we have to learn how to let go. And we got to learn what to hold on to. Not easy. We don't get to shout about it. It's a harsh reality, but it does happen. You've been kind. Let me give you a final word. You're going to get through what you can't get over. You got to learn how to appreciate the present predicaments. You got to affirm past principles. God will acclimate your personal preferences. But the hope is in anticipating pending promises. The hope is in the fact that it ain't gonna always be like this. God got something better for us. Listen to Job. On the last day, he's going to stand, and though the skin worms destroy my body, in my new body, I'm going to get to see him, and I'm going to see him for myself. Job didn't know about the resurrection. He was hoping. You and I have better hope. You and I. Job said there is a Redeemer who's going to stand, somebody who's going to buy back my reputation. My name in the eclectic dialect of the old folk has been put on the signpost. I said I was right. My friends thought I was wrong, but God's going to vindicate me. I'm holding to a promise. It's rough right now, but I got a feeling it's going to be all right. I'm looking for something better. And the way to get through what you can't get over is to keep with the hope that in the Christian life, tomorrow is a better day. There is a bright side somewhere. It's the hope we're going to see him, that God is working behind the scenes. God is working it out. The Christian hope is that tomorrow will be a better day, that the future is brighter. I heard Chris Davis tell the story of his grandfather who grew up in Snowden, Oklahoma. His grandfather named James McGee grew up in Snowden, Oklahoma, and he said Snowden was a small town, and after they had cut the fields, they burned them, and he said the city would be dusty. He said the city was dusty. And he said his grandfather went to town with his mother. It was a small town, and when they got to town, a dust storm blew up, and he got separated from his mother. As the dust from these burned fields went everywhere, they only had 3 stores in the whole town. He went to the first store, and when he got to the first store, he didn't see her. He described it to the man. He said, "No, I've not seen anybody." Second store, with tears in his eyes, he's looking for his mama. He's a little boy, about 10 years old. He couldn't find his mama. He said, "Have you seen her?" He described the man, said, "I hadn't seen her." He said, with hopelessness, he went into the third store. And there, at the back, with a coat covered in dust, was his mama. He ran over to her crying and said, "Mama, I didn't think I'd ever get to see you again." And his mama said, "Oh, sugar, I knew when the dust settled, I would get to see you again. I knew when the dust settled, everything will be all right." It's storming now, y'all. The pandemic is around us. Some of us have lost friends. Some of us are in economic situations that push us. Some of us have children we're worried about. Some of us, there's uncertainty on our job. I know it's dusty right now, but I got a feeling that when the dust settles, everything is going to be all right. The Holy Ghost done told me that everything is going to be all right. I know it'll be all right because God gave me some promises. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy will come in the morning. I know it's going to be all right because it was dusty on Friday when they hung him on the cross. But the testimony is that early Sunday morning, everything turned out all right.
Westside, here are our announcements for the week. Westside is hiring and seeking qualified candidates interested in a part-time position of church audio video lighting director. Submit your resume and employment application at WBCCHURCH.org/jobs. On September 13th, Pastor Atchison will be delivering the word, and the WBC Mass Choir will be singing at the 143rd Annual Session of the National Baptist Convention of America International. This late night 9 p.m. worship service will be held at the Antioch Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, 7550 Southampton Road, Dallas. The Imagine More leadership will be conducting informational meetings to provide opportunities, answer questions, and provide details about Imagine More and our possibilities from a godly perspective. The meetings will be September 8th and 20th from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. and September 17th and 24th after worship service. Thank you for your patience and support. The Home Ministry is providing blood pressure checks every second Sunday at 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. in room 1136. The Westside Praise Dance Fall registration is now open to children and youth grades 1 through 12 and women 18 and over until September 23rd. There will be a parent meeting and sign up on September 23rd at 9 a.m. Come experience singers and musicians from local churches and choruses at the Rejoice Free Community Concert on September 24th at 7 p.m. here at Westside. Westside and the Who Ministry are conducting a community health fair, which will include free health screenings and education, plus a Carter Blood Care blood drive. The health fair will be September 30th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. HBCU Sunday with special musical guests, the Prairie View A&M University Marching Storm kicks off at 9:45 a.m. October 1st. Come celebrate HBCUs and represent your school, sorority, or fraternity with your school gear or colors. Save the date and join us for an elegant evening that includes dinner, dancing, and much more when Westside's Winter Masquerade Ball kicks off on February 9th, 2024 at the Hilton Garden Inn in Lewisville. Registration is from October 1st through November 19th. Visit WBCCHURCH.org for more information. For additional information regarding any of these announcements and much more, please visit us at WBCCHURCH.org. Weekly announcements are also